Alright, next one up is this 2011 Avalon. I actually replaced this front bumper a few years ago, but I don't know if I was making videos at the time. That's an OEM bumper. And this is a tri-coat white, so we're going to have to get, I got some of the tri-coat or mid-coat left, but I think I'm going to have to get some of the white base. Must have had a rock chip somewhere in here. There's another one over there. I don't know if you can see it right there. It's starting to go. You can see it's bubbled all through here. There's another bubble or two. There's one there. Right in there. Paint's just starting to come off. So I'm hoping it'll feather back into somewhere into here. Once I go to sand all this, I'm going to blow off what I can with the air hose. There's one there. Two more. One there. That's probably just part of this. Yeah, see the paint's just coming off. Just in sheets. So I'm just going to get to sanding this. I don't want to put paint stripper on here just because there's no way to get the roof off the car to put stripper on it. I don't want to get stripper down in here or anywhere else that it may damage the rest of the car, so I've got to sand it. I'll probably just tilt the sunroof up, because a lot of times that'll tuck this end down. That'll get it off this edge. That way I want to completely open the sunroof just to sand that. I don't want to get anything in the car. And I'd really like to take this off since it's got a gasket around it that will get white paint on it. So I may drop the back of the headliner if I can get to it and reach in there and get the bolt out of that. I don't like to take those off because I have to re-silicone it or seam seal it so that it seals. I don't trust those foam gaskets that are under there to be used twice. Definitely don't want a leak into the car. But that's the only right way to do that is take it out. Gonna have to pull these trim pieces off. If it's bonded, I may leave it there if it's double-sided tape or something, but I'm going to try to lift it and see if it'll just snap out. The rest of the roof's in pretty good shape. I'm going to look for any more bubbled areas back in the back just to make sure I don't miss anything. But the plan for now is just to buy minimum paint for this, sand and prime the front leading edge, feather it into this section here, and just shoot white over this area and then blend the pearl back after I do the white blend and clear the whole thing. I'll be back when I get it ready to start sanding on. Alright, I went ahead and turned the pressure up to probably 80 psi and blew off what I could. And of course paint just went everywhere, but this is as much as I can get off. I actually held my hand over it and blew the air behind it so it wouldn't get in my eyes. Had some safety glasses on too. But this is all that would blow off. I'm going to start sanding this, see how far I have to go out to feather it. And that's just water. I'm going to blow it dry, but I've tilted the sunroof up just a little back here to drop this below this edge so now I can run the sander over it and not hit it. I'm going to take this up anyway, but that way this is not keeping the sander from getting all the way to the edge. I'm going to do this with 180 just so I don't get any 80 grit in it. If that won't do it, I'll go to 80, but I'm going to try to do it with 180 first. And down in here I'm going to have to pull this back with some trim masking tape, get down in there with some 180, just a folded sheet of 180, and sand all that back in there. Make sure I get down to the metal and then pull that back again whenever I go to do the epoxy so that I can get epoxy down in here, get some good adhesion. Probably wouldn't hurt to go ahead and just sand the entire front edge off. Just epoxy that whole front edge. We'll see how it feathers though. We'll go ahead and get this thing taped up. Or I get the sander out. Hopefully you can see this. These little spots. That's where it's actually coming off. And get it to focus on that. You can see it's actually starting to lift over here in a few places. There's some more. And it's a little bit hazy. There's another spot there. It looks good back in here. When you get to here, it's kind of hazy. So I'm going to go ahead and just sand all this back. Wish I could put paint stripper on here, but just can't do it. I'll sand all this back into here since I know this is starting to pop off. I need to check the other side real quick. But it would make sense to just go ahead and do it. It is getting hazy. I don't see anything popped up. Well, I see a little bit of pop over here. See a lot of little tiny ones. I washed this thing off once I blew all the paint off and got paint chips everywhere, so I did a wash on this, which needs to be done anyway. Hopefully this is all I need to do. I really don't want to have to strip the entire roof. I think everything back here looks good, at least on the back section. I do see some places where it's coming off on the A-pillars here. It's starting to pop. But as long as it's not off, I'm not going to worry about that. I see several back here. Until something actually opens up and it comes off, there's no reason to mess with it. That'll turn into having to do the entire side of the car down to there, or at least the roof rail. With it being a pearl, you don't really want to paint anything if you don't have to. I'm gonna get to sanding on this in a second. All right, I've started sanding this with 180. That wasn't gonna cut it, so went to the 80 grit, and you can see how it's just kind of flaking back. It's not feathered in. I know that it's releasing here, so that's what I expected, but I gotta push it all the way back into here and see if it just starts to feather. And I did find some spots along in here. There's some bubbles. So I'm probably just gonna go ahead and sand back here since I can see it. I don't want it coming off later and having to redo this, so anywhere I see those bubbles like that, I'm gonna go ahead and just take it off. Looks like I'm probably just gonna have to bite the bullet and paint the whole roof. I got to clear the whole thing anyway, so it's not that big a deal. Now that I'm looking at it, I see some spots in here. I don't know if you can see that or not. These little dots where paint's coming up. So yeah, I'm going to have to sand that area. Probably going to end up priming this whole roof. Looks like it's going to be a complete panel job here. I'm going to keep sanding and I'll be back when I got it all the way off to where I'm going to stop. Alright, got the whole front stripped. I still need to go back and sand the front edge, but I got to pull that gasket back with some trim masking tape. I just had this taped off so I didn't have to tape on this, and it's pulled all this off, so I went back and blew this off with the air hose to get a little more off. Looks like I'm going to have to hand sand that out. And I found bubbles all in this, not so bad on this side, but on the other side over there, there's bubbles in the roof rail, paint on the roof rail too. So I told the customer that if for some reason I have to tape this, I'm going to try to avoid that. But if it pulls the paint off this, we're going to have to do this too, which is all the way down to there in the back edge. Plus a restripe on the quarters. It's going to be a problem, but we'll just have to work with it. I'm going to try to tape down in here when I go to paint the roof. Just run the tape down in the gutter here, and then cut the plastic out down in there and tape the plastic to this. I definitely don't want to tape to this right here and pull all the paint off. Let's see if I can show you that over here or not. See all this in here? All these little spots. Those are little bubbles where the paint's starting to lift. So if I tape this, it's going to pull it off. I can get some low-tack blue painter's tape and just try that, but I may even do that anyway and put it down in here. But I want to try to stay off this as much as possible. If there was a section in it back here somewhere, like on a lot of newer cars, I'd just go ahead and do this too. We'll see what happens. There's a spot here where it was bubbling up, so I got that. This is all in 80 grit. It's starting to feather. I'm going to go back with 180 and make sure I can get a nice feather edge in it. And I need to double check the rest of the roof for any spots. There were some spots over there. I got that in that corner. Go back over here. Got this corner feathered out to where it stopped flaking on me. Still got to sand this out down in here, but this is all feathered in 80. I'll go back with 180 on that. I'll end up priming this whole roof. I'm going to go ahead and blow it off again and double check that there aren't any bubbles anywhere else. I hate to not strip the whole roof, but if it's feathering out, then it's still stuck. So hopefully that's all it's going to be, is these spots. But I really can't put any stripper up here, and sanding that out would take forever. I'm gonna go ahead and get this blown off and double check it, but I think hopefully this is all we need to do. Alright, well, I found 2 more spots here that have a couple minor little bubbles in them. Might be really hard to see this on the camera, if at all. There's some tiny bubbles in this, so it's releasing here and here. Kind of a common area, back edge and front edge for paint to start going on the roof anyway. So I really don't want to have to paint this and something pop off later. So I'm going to go ahead and use some paint stripper up here. I'm just going to have to mask it along this edge, probably about a 1/4 to 1/2 inch off this edge all the way around, just to keep it out of these moldings and stuff. I'm going to use that aerosol base clear stripper that I used on it was a white Tahoe hood, I believe. But I've got the whole front sanded out because it was all coming off anyway. That came off real quick, but sanding this off with a DA would take forever. Plus it's got clear mid-coat base and sealer on it, so it's got tons of paint. I'm going to get this out of here. I think I can looks like I can probably take that dome light out and then reach back into the headliner a few inches through there and get the bolt out of this. So that'll have that out of the way. I'm going to get this off, and I'm going to run the DA over it with 80 grit just to break the paint open. And once I get the outline done with the tape, put some plastic on the car, I'll spray the stripper onto the sanded finish, let it start blistering that off. This area right here was coming up, and you can see over here I've also got this pulled back to where it started to feather. But I don't trust this now. With so many spots where it's popping up, I just need to go ahead and strip it and do it right, and that way it won't ever have to be redone. And then if it pops off later, it's going to look like it's my fault, even though it wouldn't be. So I'm going to go ahead and strip the whole roof, at least back to, like I was saying, about a 1/2 inch off the edge. Then I'll put some trim masking tape in here, and I'll have to just DA all this down and then sand this by hand down in the inside the trim. So that's going to be the next thing. Went and bought another can of that. I think I was really low on the paint stripper, so once I get the antenna out of there, I'll sand the roof and get it masked off with the paint stripper. Alright, I'm up inside the car. Finally got the dome light out. Had to pop the lens off, and then take the bulbs out and get the reflector out of the way. And then there were some tabs grabbing it here and on the side, so all 4 of those had to be released to get it out. I can see, maybe you can see inside there, there's a big nut. That's probably about a 1-inch diameter nut inside there. My best shot might be from the dome light, but I think it's possible to go from back in the back too. I've got the back of it snapped down. It's just in some clips. Just popped it down. I think I can get behind there. I'm gonna decide which way is easiest, and then I'll get I'll probably have to get a wrench or a crescent wrench, maybe adjustable wrench, just to fit that. That way I can slip on it from the side. All I need to do is break it loose. It's got a cable running on it too, you can see that. But that nut should come off there and the whole thing should come out. It's probably just one big thick washer there. And it'll come out of the top, unplug at the top. If not, I may have to unplug it right back there. I don't know if there's enough slack. It's probably, that blue clip's probably stuck into the roof rail. But I'll at least get the antenna off, and if I can, I'll reach through here and unclip it and get it out of the car. I'm going to have to take it completely out. Alright, it's out. I grabbed a bunch of sockets that I thought would fit it. Turns out it was 7/8. I'm sure it's metric, whatever that converts to. I just used a 7/8 wrench. I took just a big long 7/8 wrench and stuck it through the headliner back here. I was able to guide it on with my hand upside down like this, get it to where I knew it was on there, and I just cracked it loose. Spun the nut off, and then I reached down in there. I ran my hand along the wiring and just felt by braille there, the tab, popped it right off. So I'll do the same thing when I go back to plug it back in. Seal looks pretty good. I really don't ever trust these to be reused because you never know if it's going to seal again, so I'll make that decision later when I go to put it in, but seal looks pretty good. It ought to seal back fine on this one. Sometimes it's a foam gasket, and those, once they get compressed, they never go back on right. So I'll put a little bit of silicone around where it's supposed to seal, and then drop it straight back in, and then while that silicone's still wet, I'll tighten it down. Essentially, it sits like this. This cable was coming out like this, and this locator goes down over the cable like that, and then the nut tightens down. Really wasn't all that tight. Of course, I did have about a foot long wrench on it, so that helped. But anyway, not going to paint this. No reason to do that. It's in good shape, so I'm going to store this in there with the dome light they've got over there in the floor. I did take the headrest off here so I could get my arm in this area and reach back through that way. Got it off. Could probably do it without that being out, but this also allows me to pop the whole headliner like this. Get a lot more flex in it, so it's good that it's out anyway. Next thing is going to be to get the roof taped off and masked, and I'm going to run the DA over all this and then start spraying the paint stripper. Okay, I've got it all scuffed up with 80. I didn't take all the gloss off, but just enough to open the paint up. I'm going to tape up this hole here so I don't spray any paint stripper in the car. And I can come back and sand this area off with a DA, no problem. I've just got it masked right where I need it to be stripped off, as far as I could get it over to the edge, so I had very little left to do by hand or with a DA. We'll go ahead and get the paint stripper sprayed on. Alright, here's the remover I'm using. Base coat and clear coat remover. Used this a couple other times, it worked really well. We'll see what happens here. Got a little bit left in this can, and we'll go to a new one here when I get done with it. A little hard to see what I'm doing on this white. I have to watch it in the reflection of the light. Alright, I'm going to get the rest of that on, and then I'll be back when it's got it removed. Yeah, what a mess. Ran out of paint stripper, went and got some more. They didn't have the kind I wanted, so I got just the regular type, which is not near as good. So it's pretty much all softened. So I'm just going through right now and scraping all this white paint off, at least getting down to the factory e-coat and sealer. And I can blast through that with 80 grit on the DA pretty quick. So I'm just going through taking all this white off. It's coming off pretty good. I mean, it's probably need to get a sharper blade, but it's coming off pretty quick. I've just got to get all the white off so I don't have to sand through that. And then all of this type of coating here will come off pretty quick. I'll go ahead and finish scraping this. Probably take me another 5 or 10 minutes. Then I need to really need to wash all this off and then start sanding it. This is after the first pass of 80 grit. I pulled all the tape off and everywhere around it, and just kind of was really careful around this edge since I don't want to tape on this because I might pull it. I just guided myself with the DA along this edge. I still need to do right in here, but the rest of it's done with 80 grit. I'm down to the factory e-coat most areas. That didn't take but about 10 minutes once I got everything wiped down. You're supposed to clean this up with water, just wash off the residue from the stripper, but I just took some water-based wax and grease remover and wiped it down really good. And I'm going to finish sanding it and wipe it down a few more times and then go with the solvent. Make sure I get it all off. I really don't want to wet this. I've just got to pull this back and do all this by hand, just get it down to the metal. I don't know how far the the paint stripper penetrated into the coating, so I got to sand every bit of it off to the metal to know that I got everything off. I've left that open just to sand around, but I'll tape that up whenever I get ready to prime it. Tape it from the inside. I'm going to hit this again with 80 grit everywhere else, just right up along this edge and here. That'll get the rest of it done. Then I'll do the rest by hand that's down in here where it's flaking off and around the front and rear edges.